We're joined by Tania Gomez, so founder of Provider Plus. How long ago was that?
It's 2017, so 6 years, almost 7 years.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. So that grew, and you supported over 8,000 providers to get registration through the organisation?
About 4,000. I have seen your videos, 8,000.
Sorry, my numbers are
4,000. But that's fine. Lots of providers. 53% of providers in...
4,000 times 2.
Yeah.
That's very good.
53% of all providers in 2020 were registered by Provider Plus.
Wow, that number's huge.
It is, yeah. We couldn't figure out how to get more than 53% market share. And we're really, really happy with that, actually. Our marketing agency said that was just amazing.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Sure, I think there's laws against having that much of a monopoly, actually.
I don't know.
That's quite a big market share.
Time to Google.
No, that's really cool. So, where did that start from? Because obviously it started small in the beginning. It started somewhere and then grown to the powerhouse that it is.
Yeah, so I worked in the RTO sector, and I was all levels. I'm an early childhood teacher by background, a special needs teacher. And I worked my way through leadership positions in an RTO. The RTO that I was on the board of for 8 years had a disability organisation in Western Sydney, and I watched them transition to the NDIS, and it was a real challenge. They had a block-funded model, they had 400 workers.
I remember those days.
Yeah, and this was 2013, and we couldn't figure out how to transition, and we had a consultant who's amazing. She is still a good friend of mine, and I could see when I decided to leave that organisation, because I was pregnant with my third son, I decided that it was time for leave. I got another role as a CEO of a large organisation, multinational organisation, and I found out 2 weeks into the role that I was pregnant with my third son, and we'd had some trouble having my third son, so there was no way I could do a CEO's role. And I basically went out to all of the people that I knew and said, I have skills and I'm willing to use them for 9 months till I have this child. What do you want me to do? And out of that formed 2 businesses. So Strawberry Solutions, and at the time Strawberry Solutions was the first business that did registrations. And I probably had about 30 or 40 clients through Strawberry Solutions doing registration, all the policy development. I wrote all of the first NDIS policies that Strawberry Solutions did. And we did that for a number of months. I had a number of clients, and then I met Will, who's the co-founder of Provider Plus, and he started a business called Provider Rego. And I don't know if you remember, but back then there was a simple registration process and a complex one. The simple one was uploading a stat deck to Proda, and for verified registration groups, it was just a stat deck. So Will started Provider Rego and did these simple registrations. He came from a vet sales background. He saw the opportunity. He went in and created Provider Rego, and then anyone who was complex, he would give to me in Strawberry Solutions, and I would do what's now called certified registrations. And then after a period of time doing this, we decided that we would combine and create Provider Plus, Provider Group. And we worked together on that. And look, we didn't make money for the first 3 or 4 years because there was every state-based process. So we'd have different policies. I wrote all the policies for every state. Queensland was different standards than WA, than New South Wales, than Victoria, the Northern Territory, South Australia. And I learned all of the audit processes, and I wrote all of the policies, and we had one registration consultant that were then called something different, registration officers, and they would write for one client, and it might take us 100 hours to write a policy pack for every individual, for every registration group, for every different state. And I was the first registration consultant, and my friend Emma was the second, and my friend Christine was the third. And together, it really started making scales of possibility, or we were able to scale it from 2019 when the commission rolled in and it was one registrations across Australia. So we could have one policy pack rather than maintaining 7 policy packs. And at that point, I really streamlined the process. I love technology, so a lot of what Provider Plus is done is use technology, streamlined all of the systems so that we could really help as many providers as we could. And for me, my life's work is really solving problems for people. I love helping people and helping organisations. And the reason I ended up in quality and compliance is that I'm good with heavy, dense legislation that other people don't seem to read as easily. Yeah, that's right.
I'm like, no.
That's right. And I love it. And so
gosh.
I can...
You're a unique human. Oh my God.
I can read 100 pages of legislation and go, right, you need to do 2 things out of it. And so, yeah, Provider Plus
That's a
then
real
started
skill.
doing it.
Why does it need to be 100 pages in the first place, though? Like,
Government has to cover their bottoms, right?
They
Has to
like
be.
words.
Yeah, they like words.
yeah.
And it has to go through so many layers of approvals, right? So everyone has to add their bit.
Yeah. Well, I think with government, they sort of, they're probably like, oh, whoa, if you do it all today, what are you going to do tomorrow? So they need
Exactly. And just when you think, you know what, guess what? We're going to
change
change it.
We've just
Absolutely.
finished. We've got to get started
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
And I love it. You're like, I can't take a CEO job because I'm about to go have my third job, but I'm just going to start 2 businesses and,
That's right.
write 7 different policies, 7 different state legislation.
I thought it would be easier, and it did mean that I could move out of Sydney to the Central Coast, and
Yeah.
that really changed our lifestyle with 3 young boys.
Yeah.
And then Strawberry Solutions became e-learning only, and it's still going now. It's 8 years old, and we have 45 staff, and we do all the e-learning for Johnson & Johnson, Breville, TAFE New South Wales, TAFE WA, multi-million-dollar contracts, and it's run by a leadership team because I worked for the last 7 years full-time in Provider Plus. So it's fully self-sufficient. They do an amazing job, and I'm very proud of them. And now I've sold Provider Plus maybe a month ago, and started Tania Gomez Consulting and taken all my, what I'm really passionate about is helping people solve problems. And for me, the first problem was let's all get registered, and I feel like Provider Plus solved that problem. It really can get registered in 3 days. You can't get your certificate, you can go through the application process in 3 days. The second problem I wanted to focus on was making compliance commercial and fit for purpose.
Can you have fun tonight?
Well, I do say fun
That's not what we're trying
sometimes.
to do, so we're
I
looking-
do say
can you
fun
have,
sometimes.
playful,
Yeah, easy, right?
Yeah.
You want it to be easy.
Yeah.
You just want to sail through audits like
Yeah.
it's nothing.
And also, I think when you say easy, like simple, like when I say simple as well, like simplify it.
Simplify.
So, you obviously
Yeah.
have this unique inherent skill that you can break down legislation, but that is a very unique skill, and a lot of people don't have that. They'll read it, feel completely overwhelmed, go like, what does this all mean? Like removing the jargon and being, okay, well, actually it only just means A, B, and C.
That's exactly what we try to do. And I kind of I know that I'm an NDIS auditor and that, most auditors are a bit scary, and I've been through many audits that are really scary.
To the providers, we all love you.
But really, I see my job as a mentor and a coach and almost a counsellor. Taking people through audit is really a stressful experience, and all they really want is someone to tell them they're going to be okay, and that someone's got their back, and that no one big and scary is going to take away their license or trip them up or trick them, and be that sounding board so that if they're in an audit and it's all gone badly, they'll call me and say, or if I'm not in the room, they'll call me and say, the auditor said all of these things are big problems. And I'll just reframe it for them and go, okay, the worst thing that can happen is we have another audit in 3 months, and that's okay. It might cost you a bit more money, but it's not insurmountable. It's not scary like they're making out. You're not going to be closed down tomorrow. We know the problems and we'll just fix them. And having that reassurance and someone to walk you through it, I feel makes a big difference to their stress levels, their anxiety, and it helps them be successful because they don't feel like they're carrying that burden all by themselves.
Totally, yeah. Something I use with my team, which you just reminded me of, is you say, what's the worst thing that could happen? And I try and teach my team, we'll actually flip that, because it actually has some not negative connotation, right? You go and think, what's the worst that can happen? You start to think about the worst things that can happen. I always say, flip it. What's the best possible thing that could happen in this scenario? Like, say, for example, I hate public speaking, so I would totally freak out, But if you start to think about, okay, what happens if I get up on stage and everyone, claps at my first sentence, and then afterwards I get a standing applause, and then George Clooney comes up and, kisses my neck, and I go, you actually, fantasize about it, right? And then you actually go into that being, so much more positive. So it could be, I don't know, in an audit space, what's the best thing that could happen? We get the opportunity to show how amazing we are.
Yeah, absolutely.
3 months and absolutely smash us out the park, and auditors going to clap us and give us a big hug, and we're all going to have all these tears,
And audits really should be a celebration of how well you've come.
Totally.
And even when I'm, I've got my audit hat on, not my consultant hat. There was this very large council that I did an audit for not so long ago, and I've audited them 3 times. But the first time, I gave them 110 non-conformances at their stage 1 audit, and they were beside themselves. They were beside themselves, and I had to talk them off the
99
ledge.
would have felt better.
Yeah, and I had to frame it for them and be like, but this is your stage 1. You want me to be as tough as I can at stage 1 because you've got 3 months till stage 2. You've got all that time to fix it, and you know exactly what I'm looking at. So you don't have to look at the 100 standards anymore. You just look at these things. And when we finished the audit, they got no non-conformances at stage 2, and they actually said, thank you so much for being tough at stage 1 because it forced us to really be good at stage 2. Because when you're at a stage 2 audit, this is your final thing. If you fail at stage 2, you get a non-conformance and you then have to pay for a third audit, which no one wants to do, and it takes another 3 months and it delays everything. So it's all about perspective and letting them see that this is an opportunity. Your policies are great for the childcare centres you run. Your policies are great for the ISO accreditation, but NDIS has its own requirements. And you're not meeting them, but this is a chance for you to see that and be better. And when I did their midterm recently, actually I did their recertification recently, they've come so far in 3 years and they're so proud of themselves. And at your recertification, you can give a rating of elements of best practice, a 3, as opposed to a 2 being a conformity. And they got many 3s and they were so proud of themselves for getting 3s. And like they did say, we're so glad that you were really tough in the beginning. And they actually at the beginning put in a complaint about me and said that I obviously don't know early childhood when that's my degree and background. And they're like, she obviously doesn't know early childhood, we want another auditor. And of course that wasn't going to be possible. But then they're like, we actually think you're the best auditor we've ever had and we're so grateful. And I was like, well, that's what it's all about. Seeing the improvement, seeing the opportunity, improving, and in the process, improving your quality of care. Your participants are going to be better off now because you have these checks and balances in place.
Totally.
So yeah,
how cool to have someone like you in their corner.
Yeah.
It would just feel like you just like walk in there like with like a Conor McGregor like walk or something, you just feel like, oh, I've got Tania here,
I'm not sure I'm that cool, but
I don't know that he's cool anymore.
Part of your
actually.
personal branding would be like Tania with a Conor McGregor.
I don't know that Conor McGregor is cool anymore.
You
People
don't
don't like him any. No, I'm not saying that I don't think he's cool. I'm saying that I don't think he's got the cool factor that he once had.
He's a dad now, maybe.
I don't know.
That's why.
Yeah.
His wife's pretty cool now, though.
Is she?
Yeah, she's got like I think she's an influencer now, is she not?
Oh, I don't know.
he did a really big comeback, didn't he? It was all about the
No,
comeback.
he got smacked.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
The comeback didn't work?
No, he came in, and that's when he broke his leg, and now he's been off on steroids. He refused to get tested by ASADA or whatever it is, and he's saying, I'm going to fight then, and they've gone, no, because you haven't been in the testing pool. And he's like, oh, well, put me in the testing pool, and he's just been travelling around on his yacht so he can't get tested because he's never in one place long enough.
What a shame, what a shame.
And you know who made his yacht?
No.
Lamborghini.
Oh.
It's a Lamborghini yacht.
Oh my
That's pretty
God.
impressive.
Yeah, that is good. Yeah, you can see that on the waters of work.
yeah.
He must be an NDIS provider.
He must be like truckloads of cash and his Lamborghini, totally.
Could be innovate community participation, right?
Yeah. Assist products and development. Assistive.
So funny.
Yeah.
So you had a breakup, but from that came your consulting, which is super exciting.
Yeah. So I moved on from the relationship with Will and myself and started again. And as part of leaving the business, I was able to continue working with a number of our higher end clients and really building strong relationships with them and supporting them. Only working with a much smaller number, so it was about 100 to 150 new clients a month in Provider Plus, but I really only want to work with 10 to 20 clients who are really trying to achieve amazing things and really want me on their team to help them have a view over their compliance as they grow and do amazing things. So one of my clients is the largest provider in Tasmania, and I registered him in 2017, maybe even 16 before Provider Plus, and he has 3 quality and compliance people, but I keep oversight for him so that he can focus on growing the business and providing high quality care. And he's amazing at audits. He doesn't really need me there, but for him it's like an insurance policy, right? For me to come on site at the audits to make sure everything is up to scratch. Yeah.
Tania Gomez Consulting, your insurance policy.
Yeah, it's kind of like that, right?
Policy.
Yeah, and then something Chris and I were talking about is this whole idea of working compliance around what your business does as opposed to it dictating, because it needs to be commercial. NDIS businesses are small businesses mostly, and you don't have these big fat margins to have onerous administration and onerous processes.
There's not massive margin there.
Yeah, with the truckloads of cash. No, so this is something when I first started speaking to Tania, and the way I related it, and I do to some people as well, is when I talk about what Tania does, is I relate it to with my accountant. I don't want my accountant to say to me, hey, no, you can't do this, but you can put your phone bill here and your laptop, and her to go, oh, this, like, I don't care, just make it as beneficial as possible or as suitable as possible. And I think if I was a provider, I would want the same with compliance. I don't want to be governed on, you can't do that, it's too risky, you can't do this. I want to come up with crazy ideas where my participants have the dignity of risk and want to go skydiving. That's what we do. From a compliance standpoint, how do we do it? What's the funding bracket that goes under? Is it going to be, do we need to put some capacity building in there in the start so they get lessons and stuff? Or what is that? Like, just basically that is the way I think Tania approaches it, is this is all of the stuff we want to do. How do we make it compliant? And then obviously there's all the auditing stuff and all of that. But in the ongoing, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but...
she's not telling your accountant to go my desk keep on your business, okay?
Oh, my accountant. My accountant.
I don't want to be your accountant.
If you called me, I'd be like, Chris... return the desk.
Well, sometimes I do have to have those hard conversations and say you just can't do it.
Yeah.
Like if something that's obviously against the rules, right?
Yeah.
Like similar to you, why I resonate with the work that you do is I'm certainly not here to help cowboys get through loopholes, right? I've seen that in the vet space that I worked in. I've seen that in family daycare when I worked in family daycare. I'm not about helping people get through things with dodgy practices, but I am about using compliance to support business activities.
Yes.
And being that I've owned businesses since in my 20s, I can really see that the success of a business is around sustainable profit margins, and compliance can be one of the things that just adds too much extra cash flow going out.
Yes.
And it doesn't need to be that way. So, you need to do things smarter and look at, okay, let's streamline our policies and procedures using technology. Let's offshore some elements that, doesn't impact service delivery. How do we do things smarter rather than harder? And how do we make all of that compliance in the first place? Because when you get a consultant to come in the week before your audit, like a client of Chris's I was speaking to today, if we do it the week before audit, I have to go in with the approach of fixing all of the issues, where if I start 6 months out, we can just put practices in place that make you compliant every day, right? And it's so much easier, less stressful, and that means you can build a really sturdy ship, or, build a house based on concrete rather than mud.
Yeah. I think the point that you made there is certainly what I resonate with the most too, is it's not about helping cowboys get through the loopholes. It's for providers that want to do more and do things in a different way to how it's being done. How do you make that compliant? Because again, I'm not a provider, but a lot of the providers that we work with are doing stuff that isn't the normal model, and the outcome of it is so much better. But because it's not the traditional normal model, it's like, how do we pay for it? Is it safe? What are these other policies and procedures we need to produce for it? Because it hasn't been done before. And these are people leading, wanting to change the industry. And that's when
that's going to take some time to transform, right?
Yes, and
I'm sure when Provider Plus came around, people were thinking like, what is this? You can get a package of things to like go and get registered and all that kind of stuff. And people start something new and different.
Yes.
Want to do something innovative in a space. Like the whole NDIS space is completely transformed.
It is. And I think those people who I would love to work for and with, and I see it as a partnership, but working out how do they add value to their participants, and then how do I add value to that? And sometimes that is just turning up at their audits for them and making sure that goes well. But I have many providers that just pay for consultation throughout the year, and it really is to brainstorm business ideas and to get my compliance perspective, always knowing that I'm going to be positive and go, okay, if there's a way to make this work, we're going to. If we can do this, I'm absolutely on board for doing this, but let's make sure. And for me, compliance is all about risk tolerance, right?
Yes.
It's all about, you never know, you can never be sure what your auditor is going to be like on the day. There's 19 approved quality auditing bodies that all have their own individual standard that they work to. And then you have every individual auditor, let's say 600 auditors in Australia. Every single person sees their world through a different lens. I'm an early childhood teacher, special needs teacher by background. If I'm auditing Module 3, early childhood supports, especially child protection, I worked in an out-of-home care organisation with children at risk of harm, you can bet I'm the toughest auditor that there is around your child protection policy. You don't want me auditing that, or maybe you do, but only if it's great. Where my husband's an NDIS auditor, he comes from he worked in hospitals in WHS and quality and compliance. He's really big on governance. So you better make sure your delegated authority document is great. But when we audit together, he has a different view than I have, because we have different experiences, and the standards are vague. They allow interpretation and they demand proportionality. So if I'm auditing a gardener one day, or a gardener might not be certified, but if I'm doing a brand new support coordinator one day and the largest support coordinator organisation in Australia the next day, it's the same standards. But what they need is somebody to help them make sure that it is still compliant. And so you can never determine what your audit outcome is going to be. You're going to get the worst auditor or you're going to get the best auditor. And you don't want to leave it to chance. You want to control it.
Yes.
So like my mentor, who was an auditor in the vet space, he actually was a partner of Provider Plus in the beginning. I didn't mention him, but we brought him out early on because he was too busy with other compliance. He taught me a system called define and defend. And that's basically that you can win any argument with an auditor if you can define how it's suitable and defend it with evidence. And that's the process I teach everyone. You want to go water skiing with someone and you want to take a group of participants water skiing, define how that fits and how that meets choice and control, person-centered practice, that they confirm, whatever it is, and then defend it with policies, procedures, documentation, risk assessment. And if you show an auditor that you can define it and you can defend it, we interpret the standards this way, this is why, here's our evidence, they can't argue with you. You can do anything you like. It's just getting that evidence. And people are really poor at figuring out how to document it. And for me, I just go, okay, well, you're right. Let's get a risk assessment. Let's get consent. Let's do these 5 things and let's get it in a package ready for the auditor. And if they push back, what's the worst that can happen? We might have another audit in 3 months' time and it might cost us another $3,000. But is that worth giving it a go?
Yeah, 100%. And to change lives, I think, when you're trying to really lead in this space, it's just not enough anymore to be offering, like gardening being 2 hours out the back of the day program, watering some plants. Like, we can do better. This space is so big, and you need to be leading with new ideas that are breaking the mold of what's in there. And to do that, it means that there's compliance there that isn't actually straightforward, because we know with gardening, we want to go, okay, well, they need to wear gloves, right? But if we do, so I use this as an example all the time with the Cornerstone program. So what we do for providers, when we first go in, is we build out a Cornerstone program. So instead of gardening being those 2 hours out the back of the day program, what we'll do is we'll get a group of guys together, go up to the apple farms in Bilpin, learn a bit about the trade, meet with the farmer, harvest their own apples, bring them back, wash them, prepare them, sell them at a grower's market, just a much more involved program. Now, the outcome is still the same. One's going to be gardening, one's going to be gardening on the goals and your plan. But the outcome of what people actually achieve from that is so much more significant. From the marketing perspective, we then have that ability to go market with it and whatever. But with that being said, the compliance and safety and protocols and procedures and everything around walking out the back with a watering can versus the other is a whole heap more. Like, you're going to need policies and procedures around manual handling and transport, because you're going to have to put wheelchairs in the back of a van and strap them down, whereas gardening out the back of the day program doesn't have that. So there's a lot more there to that, especially in terms of work health and safety and manual handling and bending. And
I think what you said about changing the model of what you're doing is completely correct. If you think about, I went to an NDIS conference in Perth the other day, and they were talking about the largest growing cohort of NDIS participants are children, right, 0 to 12. When those children are adults, what the experiences that they're going to want, the lives that they're going to want and that they deserve is going to be so different. It needs to keep moving and evolving, because people keep moving and evolving. Absolutely. And the business is helping people live their goals, right? And their goals aren't going to be sitting at the back of a day program and doing some gardening. It is going to be something real and tangible that they can be involved in. It can meaningful stuff, right? Things that add meaning to their life, not that just keeps them busy doing activities, like these children with autism was the biggest growing cohort. These children are going to want to learn how to code. They're going to be coding anyway. They're going to be proficient in things that don't even exist yet. And so providers have to be innovative to keep their services innovative, so when these people are their clients, they're able to meet those people's needs. Yeah,
100%. And I think I see it every day from the marketing standpoint of people like, I can't get cut through. I've called all the support coordinators and told them I need SIL participants. Go, yeah, they've had that phone call 25,000 times this week. Why don't you call them up? At the very least, how hard is it to put a sensory room and a gaming room in your site and then call up and go, hey, I have a SIL property that's perfect for someone 17 to 25, young guy, bit of a party house. They've got a gaming room. They've got a sensory room if they do need some time out. Do you have anyone like that? How much harder? How much harder is it to put that little bit to it? And I think to grow in this sector with so much competition, all you have to do is be better.
Or you just have to know what you're good at and what you're not good at.
Yeah.
And know what you want to do, where you're going to make the difference, where your impact is. Like, clearly, you know your cohort. I'm working with awesome providers, you know, to make a really positive difference in the space of quality compliance.
Yeah, absolutely.
But like we've talked about before, if you have 100 different registration groups, but you really don't know what you're good at.
Oh, you're an optometrist and a gardener and home modifications and MTA and...
they're a unique skill set. And if you want to be innovative, be really innovative in your space, your choice.
And know your target market.
Totally.
Like, I did an audit for a plan manager back when they were certified really close to here in Penrith, and they had the most amount of participants I'd ever seen. I can't remember how much it was, but it was huge numbers to me then. Maybe it was like 1,000 or 2,000 participants under plan management, just a single lady. And I asked her, how on earth did you get so many? Because she was a lawyer originally, a psychologist by background, very strange. And I was really interested in how she grew so quickly. And she said, well, my husband is blind and we only service the blind community. And so all my service agreements are verbal or braille. And I don't get anyone to come to me. I go to everyone because it's really hard traveling around.
It's like the mic drop moment, like perfect. You know, this is a woman who
she never paid $1 for marketing. She just had her husband who had a few blind friends. She had a few people who had blind children. And before you know it, across the whole of Australia, she is the plan manager to have if you have vision impairments. Yeah, and she was so passionate about it. And it was something that, you know, it was like, oh, do you take other people? She's like, look, I can, but it's not my area. I'm really for these people. And this isn't just my business, it's my life calling. And it's some way I can help people like my husband. And I feel like this is already my community and I'm supporting them. And she was absolutely amazing. I've looked her up a few times to see if she's still going. And it was like, for me, at the time, I do meet a lot of providers who are brand new, and they're like, well, how do I be different? It's like, well, only you know that.
Yeah,
call me. I will work it out.
Chris will figure it out for you. Go here if you're good. If you're shit, don't call. Right? It's whatever. If your last digit's 7, we'll change it to 8.
Did you see the one I sent you the other day? I texted to you. This guy, man, this is what's starting to piss me off. This guy, I am a taxi driver. I'm looking to become registered NDIS provider. Can you help me? No.
Yeah.
No. I get shit like that all the time. Like,
sorry, you go. May I?
No.
I'm going to slide in there, right? Yeah. So what I loved about what you just said about that woman too is like she's a plan manager for the vision impaired community, and then she's not like, well, that's going really well, so now I'm going to become a day program provider as well. Like she's just doing what she does, you know. Because
she could have easily retired. She wasn't a young lady, and it wasn't about the money. And like I always
I'm going to go home and
roughly do the
who's the biggest plan manager for vision impaired people.
I roughly did the maths in my head of what she was earning, and it was nothing to be sneezed at. Right, she was obviously doing really well, but it was just that whole Simon Sinek why thing. She'd really suss that out. And the first provider that I was sitting on their board when we transitioned to the NDIS, they were really clear on who their people were, and their registration groups were really to support those people. Like, it wasn't like we're going to do there's 36 registration groups, let's do all 36. It's like, no, be really good at one thing, or 5 things that support one type of person.
Yes, I think, and I get it when someone comes in and they go, I really want to do accommodation, right? So they get SIL and SDA, whatever. It's like, okay, put respite on there as well, because it
makes sense, complementary.
It does, and someone might come to you that while they're getting their SIL funding, you might need to put them in STA or MTA. So that makes sense. But then we're going and loading it up with fucking optometry and physiotherapy and gardening and home modifications and like
And like in the NDIS there's verified and certified, and then there's 5 or 6 specialist modules. And like the specialist modules, module 1, 2, 2A, 3, 4 and 5, those modules are for specialists, right? Like all the time, so many conversations, people are like, well, I want to do behaviour support, and you're like, but why? Oh, because there's money in it. I looked up the pricing guide, it's the highest figure in the pricing guide. Okay, do you have a behaviour support practitioner? No. Do you even know what this is? No. Okay, like that's the most complex area of the NDIS.
Do you love writing really complex reports?
Yeah.
Like that's what I think
really
people
complex.
miss as well. Like, because you might be a really good psychologist or counsellor or whatever, but a lot of the time you'll spend a lot of your time writing reports so that someone can go back and get similar funding or for a restricted practice or anything like that. So actually, it's probably not what you think it is at all. And then it's like you want to live a life full of
paperwork.
I did it that other day. Someone said exactly that. They were like, I'm waiting for my registration to do SEAL. And I said, why do you need your registration? She goes, because of behaviour support. And I said, no, you just don't need those high-level clients. Like, you can get people in there and do it, plan and self-and plan manage. She said, oh, no, I don't want to. And I said, what do you mean? She said, I only want them if they've got behaviour support plans because they're more money. And I was like, all right, see ya.
But also, may come with more money if the NDIS funded. But let's be honest, we're going to see a change real quick there soon too.
Yeah.
But let's say they do come with more funding, comes with more risk, more training, more quality and compliance,
more highly qualified staff.
So if you're actually doing that service well, which is basically what our core business is, if you're doing that really well, it's probably the most least profitable, because by the time you spend all of that money upskilling your team, making sure you're compliant with the registration, doing all restricted practice approvals, your reportable incidents with quality and safety,
replacing 3 still houses because all the windows have been broken.
Exactly.
The houses up.
So actually, you probably should have just done self-care in home support.
100%.
I think being really clear on who you're serving and why you're serving it is the most important thing. And actually, I would say out of all the audits I've done, at least 90% of audits that I've done are really clear, and they're doing it for the right reasons. They've got that one person in mind that they're registering to support, whether it's that lady with her husband wants to support that community, or they've seen a need somewhere that they'd like to fill. Most providers already have that. It's just, I guess, when you see this $26 billion a year government scheme, you get all of the people from the pink bats and the vet fee help and all of those coming in to they see the dollars, as opposed to realizing the large workload and the thin profit margins, and
if you're doing a really high quality
and you have to if you want more clients, because it's all word of mouth.
Exactly.
And it's all building trust, right? You have to be able to talk the talk. Same as what I do. If I'm not able to get into an audit and get someone through as much as I possibly can and advocate for them and push back and give them high quality things, it doesn't matter what branding or marketing I do. If I can't follow through with the goods, no one else is going to use me. If I do a great job for one client, they will tell 10 of their friends. And then I become the person that they go to because I can do what I say I'm going to do. And I actually, I try to downplay it, and I'm always better than they expect. And I think it's the same with disability providers. You need to do what you do really well, understated, under promise, over deliver, and that's how
stay honest.
Well,
absolutely, and transparent about what you can and can't do.
Exactly right.
That is our sector. It is. There needs to be trust there. I say this to providers all the time. Is in the first instance, I think I said it before when we were off camera. Is in the first instance, you go spend $100,000 on Facebook ads, you're not going to get a referral. Anyone that tells you. Yes, it's not how it works.
Really?
But until you've got trust and built some trust with people that are going to refer to you, or people that know you within the sector, or have a relationship, or they have someone that knows you, it's not going to work. By the same token, I know Tania's great. Whenever anyone says to me anything about compliance, straight away I go to Tania. They're not even going to bother calling anyone else because they've got the trust in me. Same thing if someone comes to me and goes, hey, like I've got this really complex care 24/7 2-to-1 ratio. They need some SDA. Who do I go to? Go to Rachel. They're not going to go to anyone else because they trust me. And this whole sector, you need to build that trust and those networks. It's just developing the tools and frameworks and stuff around that. And I think our sector is getting more like that now than ever because of all of these people that are coming in and giving the sector a negative connotation. I've had 2 conversations in the last 2 weeks with providers that want to change from being a provider to being a not-for-profit, just to get away from the stigma of what being an NDIS provider is. And that's sad because so many of us are in here to change the world, and we can if we're doing the right things.
And it's absolutely the same journey that I saw in the RTO and education space. For a while there, nobody wanted to be called a private RTO or private college, right? Like I was on the board of the Australian Council for Private Education and Training for 8 years, and I was so proud of being a private provider because 80% of all students go through private providers. Like this, the stats just show you that they do a really good job. But 5 providers did a really bad job and used some loopholes and got paid a lot of money, and it's 9 years later and RTOs still aren't getting even close to the funding that they should, the recognition that they should. A few bad people ruined it for 4,500 amazing providers. And I've seen that transition. Private hospitals have great reputations, private schools. Why not private colleges and private disability businesses?
Interesting.
Right?
Totally.
And it's something I'm really passionate about.
Well, we just need to get someone to do something really bad in one of those sectors. does private college do something really stupid, please, so that you know?
So it takes away from us.
There's rotten eggs in every sector, right?
There is.
Like,
so there's 10,000 disability providers. They're in every sector, there's going to be people that don't do the right thing. And it's not about the one or two bad providers, it's about the rest of the providers that are doing an amazing job.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think as well, like you need to look at it, you need to understand two things. You mentioned it before, the business needs to be profitable because you can do more. So the fuel that pushes the business is that. But at the end of the day...
But that takes time and hard work and grit.
It does.
And, a lot of, commitment. It's not just like, you come into this space, you can't start servicing your clients and all of a sudden, you've got a bottom line figure that you're really happy with. You might have to take a negative for a while,
If I were to put a recipe together of what success looks like for a lot of the providers that we work with, it's the two key points that you've touched on. One, it's understanding that money isn't bad in this sector. If you're in it for profit, it's not going to work. But the more money you have, the more difference you can make. And then if the reason behind why you want to grow is, back to your Simon Sinek start with why, is to affect as much change as possible, then you are able to grow and scale, and it doesn't become a how much money can I pull out there and stuff. Obviously, everyone needs to be comfortable. Everyone wants to live. Like we work to do that. But when those are the founding cores, when I talk to a provider and I get that feeling from them, they're the two things. Like, I'm just so fed up with Sil, we can do it better. Like yourself, I remember talking, you were a tenth the size you guys are now because you just keep taking everyone on because you want to, everyone comes to you because you're the best at what you do. And you also aren't going to go, nah, sorry, we're too full. You're going to do what you want, what you need to help that person become the best version of themselves,
but similarly,
essentially.
again, we're only good at one thing.
Yes.
So similar to Tania Gomez, she knows her niche and that's what she does really well.
Yeah.
I'm not out there saying we run day programs, we don't.
Yeah.
And if you want a day program, we'll refer you to that, but we're a whole of life still provider. We are, that's what we do, you know? So, and we do it really well because we hone in and focus about making that amazing.
Yes.
So I think that's, I'm giving away business secrets here now, but just be good at whatever you choose is your calling.
Yes.
And really, like I said, like it has to feel like in the bottom of your gut that like, this is my purpose, this is my soul calling. And if I don't do this, I'm not fulfilling my, like, what I'm supposed to do in life.
Your gifts, sharing your gifts, contributing.
Exactly.
That's exactly what
so
it
doesn't
is.
feel like that, but you shouldn't be a provider. You hearing me?
I think also it's all of that work that you're talking about is all completely unseen. Nobody sees it. You don't take selfies of yourself staying up till midnight, 1 a.m. redoing risk assessments, right? Maybe you do, but it's nothing that you would want to publicize all this hard work. And often people will say, oh, wow, you're so lucky, you've done so well. And it's like, you see the tip of the iceberg. I've done countless hours to build this business. I've done countless hours.
Sacrificing time with your family.
Oh, absolutely. With the people you love most.
Totally. Yeah.
And you think about that and you just go, it has to be a calling or you wouldn't do the work.
Yeah.
I have people all the time who might be brand new auditors or brand new consultants, or even people in my team who I'm training and will be like, tell me all the things that I need to know about whatever, an audit. And I'll be like, well, I've done 600 audits, so I can't articulate to you everything that I know. It's just now in me, right? It's in my body. So when I've unconsciously learned it. So when you ask me a question, of course, I can tell you that's on standard 1.3, but that doesn't tell me.
That is freaking weird.
So strange.
So weird.
But it doesn't, I can't tell you how I got to that.
Yeah.
And even teaching people how to do an internal audit, sure, I can tell you how to look at evidence and find evidence and put ticks in boxes, but you have to be able to read it and actually realize what the whole process is.
Yeah.
Like, who has written this support plan? How has this come about? What's the purpose of this document? Not just the surface level rubbish.
Exactly. Like,
how is it making a difference?
Yeah.
How does it help support the provider in doing a better job?
Yeah.
It's not just giving them a template, it's giving them a template that's going to be capturing the right evidence so that the business can do better things, faster, more efficient, less red tape, all of those things.
And also, if you've got all these things in place to provide quality support to the people that we care for, essentially, or provide a service to, is that how does it actually improve the service for them?
Yeah.
Because it's common that, like, obviously everyone wants, a risk assessment and to know that they're safe, but outside of that, like all the other things that are required, how does it actually benefit the person who's paying for the service.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, that's who we're there to serve.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, I know I'm getting off topic. I know we're interviewing Tania, but why did you get into this space? Like, obviously you like marketing and all that kind of stuff, but what led you to...
I've been in this sector for 14 years.
Okay.
So I left
Sorry,
school.
we digress.
Here we go.
Yeah.
You've got to go
day?
soon. No,
Yeah,
I'll be quick. I'll be quick. So I left school to go race cars overseas.
Yeah.
Mum and Dad split up, so the money stopped, so that never happened.
Yeah.
But to leave school...
Oh, it's like a sob story.
Because I left school, when I left school, I hadn't finished my HSC. So to do that, one of the requirements from New South Wales government or whatever was that you had to be in employment or studying. So Mum worked in the sector, so I left, got a job as a support worker, just so I could tick the box to leave school.
Yeah.
And then they split up, and I'm like, oh fuck, what do I do now? Like, I can't go back to school. So that's how I started in the sector. That was right when the changeover happened between block funding to NDIS. So there was a lot of restructures.
Wow, it's only recently then.
10 years.
Yeah.
It's been 10 years.
Has it been 10 years?
Yeah.
2013.
So I was
Holy
15.
hell, I've been asleep
Rolled
for 10
over.
years.
No, so I was
literally fell asleep last
I
night.
was
woke up in the 10
15
years.
when I started in the sector, 16 maybe. I didn't even have my driver's license. And then, so I got really lucky in that because of all of these restructures. I sort of just grew and climbed and went to all different places. And all of the orgs that were big orgs had like KPMG come in and talk about how we don't just look sexy to the government anymore. We need to actually be a fully functioning business that's marketing to participants. And so I got all of that really high level training over a period of time where I got to just jump across. Plus I paired that with my psych degree, which I sort of related a lot to the marketing. And then finally...
Well, it is pretty much, isn't it?
Yeah. And the third and final benefit was the fact that I was a male. Like, at the time, it was so hard to find a male in the sector. Yeah. So I had
Still very rare. I think we're 85% women.
Yeah, I think it's a lot different now compared to what it was. But I remember I could call up anybody that was a provider back then, or an org, we used to call them orgs, and say, hey, I'm looking for, because they just needed male support workers.
Yeah.
Same thing. So I also, me walking in anywhere, it was just that male privilege, basically.
I've never asked you that question.
I don't know that you didn't know that.
We'll do another episode all about how you got it.
How I could have made it to F1 and here I am helping.
I knew there was more in that. It's going like I started from the bottom, now I'm here kind of story.
Yeah, now I'm making sure taxi drivers don't become providers.
Yeah.
So,
that's hilarious.
I have two questions for Tania because I know we have to wrap up. But my question is, how do you pick the people that you work with?
Yeah, it's a good question. I was able to bring a few clients with me from Provider Plus who I hand selected because I'd worked with them and wanted to continue working with them. Outside of that, usually it's word of mouth and referral. So Chris refers quite a few clients to me and I will talk to them. And I usually like to start with a small piece of engagement like an internal audit, so that lets me to look under the hood and I take them through some questions to get to know who they are and what their intentions are and where they want to be and why they need my support. And then as I do an internal audit, I sit with them and once I've done the action plan and figured out what the problems are, by talking to them about their internal resources, I can really get a sense of where are they in their business journey, what do they need support with, and if I feel that I can provide them with what they need, then I will offer my services for whatever the fee is that we've agreed based on what they need. But I certainly don't take everybody that
was my next question. So do you go, okay, no, we're not aligned,
I start with an internal audit and I will give anyone an internal audit because that's just me providing what's wrong, right?
Yeah.
Like when I'm a normal auditor, I will audit anybody because it's just me saying what's wrong.
Yeah.
As a consultant, you then have to tell them the solutions, and so I'll help them understand what the problems are.
You're like, no, you're way too far gone.
Well, I like helping people who need help as long as they some people ask me to work with them and they don't need my help at all. They've got internal people who can do everything. And I think, sure, I can mentor those people and I can be a stopgap, but then maybe that only requires me to talk to you once a quarter and then we can work that out. But if the virtual quality manager service or their compliance service where I take on responsibility for their quality and I sit through their audit with them, I can only do that for a small amount of people because it's really time intensive, and I work really closely with them. I'm on site for their audits, for weeks prior. I'm looking at every document. I've read every support plan. To give them that level is really intensive, and it has to be someone who wants to work with me and how I work, and be really clear of where those boundaries are. So I don't work with everybody that would like me to, and really want to form long-term relationships with people. I really like the clients who have quality and compliance managers already, and they've had a lot of turnover in that, or they're growing, and those people don't have anyone to bounce off.
But that's still a very new space too,
very
right?
New.
Yeah. So those people still are learning, and it's evolving so quickly too. So.
And I would love to create a community of practice.
Skills descriptor, and it's like every 6 months.
That's
it's
right.
Like, oh, hey, guess what?
Yeah.
Now military manager is completely different.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would love to create like a community of practice of all the compliance managers in all the providers and support them to be the best that they can. So it's not me having to do the risk assessments and to do the file checks, but when they have questions, they have someone that they can ask, who they can bounce off, like a mentor, because that really is the most valuable thing. I've done so many audits for so many providers. There isn't a black or white answer to 99% of the questions. So I can use the experience with all the other providers and go, look, I think that this is the best solution for you. Here's risk and here's risk. Here's two solutions. We can do this, a little bit more risk. We can do this, less risk. Which would you like to do? And then help them implement that.
Yeah.
And not everyone's comfortable with that. Some people want someone who will sit in the chair every single day and do the file reviews and go through participant files. It's probably not the best use of my time, and I probably charge too much money for that.
Yeah.
But as a strategy, helping them figure out what's their strategy for the next 3 years, if they have a business plan, where do you need quality and compliance? Is it to get through your next audit? Is it because you're opening 10 new still houses and you need them to be compliant? Where can I add value, and what does that look like?
Yeah, cool.
And I charge accordingly. I don't have set packages of, not like Provider Plus, where we had set packages, $3,000 a month for a VQM. It's not like that. It's really, where are your gaps? What resources do you have? And where can I add value? And then I charge an hourly rate for whatever that looks like. I do 12-month or 18-month retainers if you've got an audit in 18 months and want support through that whole time.
Yeah, and so it's kind of like you've taken like both of your businesses, Strawberry Solution, which is like an education thing, and plus your quality, like your auditing stuff, and you've sort of merged into one. So it's like almost like a coach, mentor stuff.
Yeah, and that's what I love doing. I love helping people be successful and really reaching their goals. Yeah. And I'm a teacher by background. I've always loved teaching, right?
I'm picking up teaching.
Always loved teaching, so I have to educate everyone. And I call it capacity building. I want to build people's capacity. I want them. I don't want to do your compliance forever. You paying me money every month to do your compliance is boring for you, expensive for you, and boring for me. I want to build your team so that they're the best compliance people, and then somehow support all the compliance people so that everyone builds this skill. I've been working on developing an accredited course for disability providers,
just in all your spare
diploma
time
of
when you're
quality
not doing a PhD and running 2 businesses and managing a household of 4 children.
And travelling all over Australia. And it's so right about teaching.
She's a wife in there too, right?
Yeah. Sometimes.
About being a teacher, every time I talk to Tania, it's like, hey, we're going to do this with your marketing, and then we end up having a 10-15 minute call where she goes, oh, have you tried doing this? Have you tried doing this? So she's teaching me. She's just always teaching everyone.
Right? And now that I've sold Provider Plus, financially I don't need to do any work. So I only want to do the work that resonates for me, and I only want to work with people who I can add value to. And so if I can't add value, then I'm happy to give you the resources to do it yourself. I'm happy to say, sure, take the internal audit template and go and do an internal audit yourself. You don't have to pay me money if there's no value, but if you want the level of advice that I can give you to help get you from here to here and make sure that you get there smoothly and as fast and without as much pain as possible, then I'm here to help you through that process. So some providers, I just sit on their board, and I'll sit on their board, and then each quarter I'll go through their plan with them and just add a compliance viewpoint. Because I've run businesses forever, I'm as much as a business advisor as I am a compliance person.
You're like a package deal.
Thank you.
This is why I refer her to her.
I only do compliance.
I'm sold.
Well, you were one of my clients. We did have many conversations at Provider Plus. I think it is that whole thing of, what I want to do is just really help people do amazing things and use that skill. And sometimes that's business advice and sometimes it's compliance advice. I don't love compliance. I don't think anybody loves compliance.
It certainly sounds like you do.
I love helping people, and because that's easy for me, it's easy for me to help someone else in that space. I'd way prefer to do something really interesting, but that's just where my skill set is. I don't know.
And so do you think we're heading towards an ISO registration?
I don't think ISO would fit. I think it would be really hard to change the existing models with 19 AQAs and that whole process. I think the biggest change for compliance is going to be the merging of these new home care standards and the NDIS standards over the next 10 years. So new home care standards come out in July. They came out in December in draft. I think it's July this year they come out. And I did some training as an aged care auditor. It wasn't so great, so I didn't continue down that pathway, but I will be trained in home care standards. And I really think that the model at home care, all the money from residential providers is going to go to home care providers. They want to keep people in their homes longer. They're going to merge the NDIS scheme with the home care scheme. That's going to create another 10,000 providers in the home care space, and over 10 years you'll be able to be audited once with an auditor assessing you against both home care and NDIS. That's what I see in the next 10 years, and the conversations I've had with AQAs about it. And there's already 2 AQAs that are approved to deliver those audits, and they're training people at the moment to do that. I decided I'll wait till it's at least a year old to be involved, because I didn't want the headaches of the millions of changes. Yeah, well, just there's so many changes, right? Like, you can write a policy, if you have to change it every 15 minutes, it's like, let's just wait a year and let it bed down, and then I can learn it in a year's time as the first iteration, as opposed to being there from the beginning, because someone else can do the hard yards and be the early adapter in that market, and I'll just piggyback afterwards.
Yeah, totally, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so what's next for TGC?
Yeah, so it's really, I have about between 5 and 10 clients at the moment. I really only want to get to 20 or 30 clients. It's not a huge business by any means. I'm really excited to be part of the retreat.
I spend time with my children.
Yeah, I do. I have
She's got all the spare time working 30 hours a day. It's all the
30
time
hours
after
a day.
that.
I wish there was 30 hours a day. I have 4 young children. My youngest is almost 2. My oldest is 12, starting high school next year.
Oh my God.
And just spending some more time with my family. I'm doing a PhD. I'm starting a PhD looking at regulation in how do we make regulation easier for small and medium businesses.
Cool.
I'm just starting that process, and that I'm sure will take me at least 5, if not 10 years. So eventually I'll be Dr. Gomez. I'll make everyone call me Dr. Gomez.
That's so cool. I love that.
And
I like Dr. Gomez too.
Dr. Gomez
Yeah.
sounds very surgical.
Really?
My husband
Maybe
works
that's
in
what
I'm getting Oprah vibes.
No, that's what we should put. That should be the your Instagram handle is future Dr. Gomez, and then when you become, we can just drop the future.
Her doing the Crip Walkers, Conor McGregor, like a rapper like TGC, Dr. Gomez. I can just see it.
Like, do you remember John Cena, the wrestler, used to be the doctor of thugonomics? The doctor of compliance. Like, yeah, I don't know.
Doctor of compliance.
Yeah, I don't know.
With my PhD, I want to create a framework that will help all small businesses comply easier with any kind of compliance. So whether they're disability providers or home care providers, a framework that people can follow to get up to speed in how to comply, how to read standards. Like, that's kind of my idea, is to take things from the RTO sector, from hospital audits, create a framework for what works well, and then be able to help providers with that. So that's kind of my next big piece of work that I'm working through. But yeah, I have 4 young children. I'm going to the retreat in Bali in July. So I'm really excited about that and meeting all those amazing providers. And yes, lots of exciting things there too.
How many people you got attending?
30.
Okay, so you'll probably walk home with 30 of you providers, because I mean, obviously your plan is to have the best of the best there.
They all are all really, really good.
Yeah.
So far.
Don't sound too excited about it, Chris. I'm going, so like ramp the excitement up a bit.
I've bit off way more than I could chew with it.
Okay.
And now it's sort of like we're just
you
so deep.
Can't turn back now.
Oh, no, I couldn't turn back months ago. And yeah, it's all organised, but I definitely think it's a one and done thing. Like, I didn't realise that, just the event planning side of it, like coordinating that's what I really underestimated. The other side too, actually, I have actually been disheartened with the amount of people that I've spoken to, where I've just gone like, it's sad that the level's not there of what I expected when I got people coming through. So that has taken a lot of time. I've had a lot of conversations with people that I've also had a lot of conversations with people that are great. So
it's like filtering that.
Yeah. So if you're listening, and it might not, like, I'm not saying you're a shit provider if you're not coming.
Well, you are.
But no, not necessarily. There's been a couple of great ones. There's been a couple of great ones that have been in really remote areas, so there wasn't any networking opportunities for them. So I have been straightforward and told them that and said, hey, would love to have you there if I get someone from there. But Yeah, it has been quite resource intensive, more so than I thought. But yeah, I'm super excited. Like, I know I might seem like a little bit down on it now, but yeah, I think you're coming. We've got great people coming. It is going to be such a good time.
Hey, look, if it's a party 5 days in Bali, I mean, I'm sure us mums are down for that anyway,
Absolutely.
right? We're going for the retreat, right?
Yeah. Well, actually, my 4 children are coming with you.
Oh, okay, all right. Maybe I'll bring my kids and we'll get a Balinese nanny or something.
I'm staying after so that I can do that in the park. I just think if I go before, I'm just going to be too stressed. So I'll do a week after and just turn my phone off. I can't wait.
Yeah. We got married in Bali, and actually the 3rd of July, just after the retreat, is my 15-year wedding anniversary.
Oh, man, look at it. It's just so perfect.
Oh,
so perfect. We'll be there on our 15-year wedding anniversary, and we've got my husband doesn't know yet, and it'd be
don't release this before, okay?
Okay,
we can release it on before.
But yeah, it was like absolutely perfect timing. So we were supposed to be in Malaysia at that time, so I had it blocked out in my diary. So we go to Malaysia each year because my husband's Malaysian. So I had the time blocked out, the kids are out of school, and then when I was like, oh, we can go to Bali instead, my husband was like, that just works perfectly. And we have actually 2 friends from Sydney there.
From Bali.
Yeah, exactly. So close, much closer than coming to Sydney.
Oh yeah, because you're from Perth.
So it all just worked perfectly. I was like, I couldn't have timed that better.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Cosmically aligned.
Oh, that's awesome. That's
cool.
Awesome.
Okay, did you have your?
I've got my 3 takeaways. Well, I mean, there was so more, but then I got really into the conversation and didn't continue. But I've got 4 actually. So I've got so we always do like 3 takeaways.
Yep.
I've got like 1,000 from this conversation, but the 3 that I actually wrote it down was that auditors don't need to be scary.
Yeah.
I think you've got a really good representation about how you can be kind, caring, approachable, friendly, which is really settling for a provider. Tania is your teammate or your solution. I got that. That's a little plug there. Rome wasn't built in a day, but build your foundation first.
Yes.
I like
that
too.
That's a great one.
Yeah. And define and defend. That's a good takeaway.
Yeah.
So if you've got something, if you've got a really cool idea, cool. Define it. Get the stuff to defend it, and go get it. Yeah.
Excellent.
They're my 4 takeaways.
All right. Thank you so much, guys.
You.
Thank you for jumping on. Obviously, we'll at the bottom in the bio, people will be able to go and follow your Instagram. Lots of cool stuff coming out. Lots of resources and stuff you've been putting together. Like there's so much resources there that you have that it's just going to be there for free for people to give them value. So if you do want some help and see where you're at compliance-wise and stuff, head over to Tania's Instagram, and we'll chat to you all soon.
Amazing. Thanks so
guys.
much.